Sorry about the long series here, pal, but I'm just on a tirade right now. It's still June 6th, and 2026, still Saturday, and it's 1:51 in the morning. So, uh, they were John City, Roseman, California. I really agree with name John Weaver. It is me. Sorry about this, Darryl in recovery. Artist in recovery / Darryl P. Sorry. So, I was trying to explain in haphazard ways. When I got out of high school, I had a basic knowledge of how college ran and worked. You know, how a student would get in there and navigate his way to get his classes and how to attend the classes and enjoy college that way, right? I wasn't paying attention in high school about how it really worked because I was going through it. Instead of the hour or nearly 45 to 50 minutes of intense instructions that the normal educational system of a district would go through, put the student go through. You got maybe 6 or 7 periods. You got maybe a short nutrition, and then you got a lunch break, and then after that, everything else is crammed out there. But the courses I took were indeed college. I read literature. I read controversial literature. I read some of the stories, short stories in the science fiction class that stuck in my head. And I still couldn't find the rest of the short stories anywhere. There was science being taught, marine biology. We were going through texts. I couldn't stand seeing the real stuff. Oceanography was cool, but dealing with life sciences of creatures, forget it, it freaked me out. Astronomy didn't. Geology didn't. I had history courses. Yeah, you had to learn names, dates, time periods, and you had math. I was flunking out of that damn thing. And then you had English. Renee Wolverton. God bless her, God rest her soul. Irene Swanson, the science teacher. I think she's still around. But man, she taught. There was a few other teachers I remembered. Oh, I had 2 Daves, one for history and the other one for math. And then we had Tyra Seymour, the head of the course. My mother hated her like crazy. You were talking about in your video about how we strayed from being intelligent because our time period right now is not showing the greatest because we have brain drain. I'm going through the back of my head and where I screwed up concerning about part of that brain drain. Right after high school, I had to work a couple of jobs just to get money to go for community college. Back then, I couldn't qualify for a grant because we didn't have the grant programs. We had loans, but there was no way in hell I was qualifying for that, so I had to get part-time jobs to get the money and pay for rent. But I did. I got in, used marked up books. But that's all they had. They had newer books, shinier, but I didn't have the money for that, just to get the used stuff because it would still go through. I learned about English history, dude. About my own ancestors. Part of them, anyway, that came from Europe. About English, about England, about Ireland, about Scotland. And we also learned about Germany. Well, those are major courses. But the problem is, I learned some of that stuff back in K through 12. But the rest of the stuff I was learning about how William the Conqueror came over to England, setting up shop, and how peasants were starting up over there with royalty ruling the lands and how they would change the soil to refresh the minerals necessary for production. You seen all those stones in different patterns in Scotland and Ireland and England and how they used that? Certain sections of it, they would overturn the soil. They would use up this particular section of soil about 2 to 3 years, left it alone. You had another plot section with the stones as barriers, but sections where you're growing your crops. You would just keep recycling. I mean, let it rest, gather up the minerals it needs. They would do this on a constant back and forth basis. I learned from this one history professor. Oh God, I wish I remembered this guy's name. He was marvelous. But then if you wanted political intrigue, you'd deal with Mr. Thompson with a voice so monotone it would drive you crazy, but he was into these monarchs trying to kill each other left and right. I couldn't deal with this class. I couldn't deal with this guy. He was just that out of it. I dealt with science classes. One with a lab professor and another semester of a field geologist, which was outstanding. I learned stuff. I learned how to be observant about things, pick up the rocks and look at them and ask questions. I was still trying to keep up with that education during those times. But I was also learning about English literature, but also American literature. William Faulkner, The Bear. I learned about Mary Shelley Wollstonecraft. I took an English literature class, not just about the stories of that, but a poetry of Yeats, and Coleridge, and Frost. Coleridge is something that still stays in my heart on this one. Rime of the Ancient Mariner, dude. At times I thought I was a mariner in my own time. And the mistakes that he made and the reasons why Coleridge created this story. I know he needed the money and he was trying to give it a little bit of a religious slant to it. There was a lot of discussions in different books that I had to do research on in college. I'm still a college student. Over the past 10 years, or a little bit longer than that, before, during, and after COVID, taking history courses, taking English courses, American novels, having arguments with a professor online concerning about why Twain was writing this stuff and why it was pissing me off. And throughout the course, I was learning more and more why. You know, to me, it didn't matter whether or not if I was learning history about it or not. I was learning history in the form of a writer that was educating people left and right. In my adulthood, I qualified for special grants to keep me going. You're talking about people having an issue concerning about science being a goofball, or NASA was really doing things with computer-generated images, but they never bothered to understand the technology at the time. It didn't bother to understand it because they didn't want to. And that's the thing that we're dealing with right now, is the want, the driving need that is not there in the American public, that it should be handed like something, but we have to earn it. We have to earn it by blood, sweat, tears. We have to earn it by deeds, by actions, by mistakes, by discoveries. We have to push ahead. And we keep wondering how come we're losing like crazy. It's because I don't think we've drilled it into our students, into the youth. They've got it complacent. We've got the electronic version right on our hands of everything else that they need to know. Smartphones, dude. Smartphones. What I'm recording on right now is supposed to be smart. Makes the computer more smarter, and makes us the least intelligent creature on the earth. Yes, I can do a computer operations. I can figure something out to work on keyboards and stuff. I can do stuff. Or at least I used to do. Doesn't take a genius, or does it, to arrange transportation to get to a library, to look at the tombs there, a processed papyrus with the smell of ink, and the cardboard that surrounds the paper, and then the feel and the weight of that majestic material that you're seeing, that you're caressing, and you have no idea what the hell the damn thing is because it's not made of zeros and ones in the digital age. It's not made of minerals that are completely being depleted in the earth to make our convenience more and more. Everything we do for convenience, modern day convenience, we're screwing ourselves over one way or another. Our incessant need to have more plastic and have the thing broken down into micro pieces and yet end up in our bloodstream. Why? Because this will be ingested into the animals and the fishes. And we would eat them and then have our own products that we just used invade our own damn bodies and brains. It was already proven a long time ago. They've got records. They've got scientific data on this shit. But no, we had to get dummies. We had to get dummies who wanted to con, cheat, thief, lie, pilfer, pillage, plunder. Pirates of an end. And they're there to pilfer and pickle your pocket. And after that, they pickled your brain. Oh, I got this college course. You see all these books over here. The first stage, you read this book. And then you've got to go through my college course to get this next book. And the next book. And the next book. And the next book. And then they finally realized they got fucking conned. But the asshole who's in office right now laughing his ass off. Because he got your money. And we did this to ourselves. We did this to ourselves. We could not admit to ourselves that we fucked up big time on this one. You're talking about how they were trying to write things in these fields and these texts and these programs that we use for communications and how sometimes they're stupid. Well, imagine when Twitter came out or the earlier versions came out. They had to keep things in shorthand. Imagine what it was like having the first phone that could do text messages and we had to learn the codes. We had to learn what this code and this lettering was all about. We had to learn it the hard way. There was no instruction manual for this shit. We were learning it the hard way, dude. And we gotten dumber and dumber. It was one thing to carry books to a class, tear apart a book, research it, just to get the information. It's another thing to do copy, paste, send the information over to the instructor. You want to try something on this one, dude? The Jetsons. Yeah, the Jetsons. Hanna-Barbera creation, what the future was going to be like past the year 2000. And they were talking about it as if they were in the 1960s, which they were. How we were going to be living in the sky with rocket packs and jet and spacecraft and sky-high apartments that would give you a nosebleed with robots and computer technology and some of the technology that we're using right now. Put a television on your phone, on your arm and watch television. Or better yet, put a camera in there and you would have instant communication, which we can do that right now. You wondered where our intelligence went. How come they weren't studying? The problem is, when you have money, you can buy things. You can buy people. You can buy whatever your educational system is going to be, as long as you get the ultimate experience, but everyone else gets shit for it. And therefore, libraries, the foundation, the bastions of our intelligence, shut down, closed down, books raided, because they were considered evil. You wanted to know what the hell was going on, and it pissed you off that you see these other people talking in different languages and different formats, and you couldn't figure them out for the life of you. And then you figured it out. They didn't have a proper education because they didn't have access to the material or the need or the want for it. They can place a comply with the zeros and ones on a damn fucking computer screen all the damn time. It's no wonder we're losing our technology. It's no wonder we're losing our wonder about a book. You know what I wanted to be when I was growing up as a kid? Not just an astronaut. A writer. A writer. I read so many damn authors. And I had a fixation on several of them that I wanted to be just like them. I wanted to write and be as intelligent as they are. I screwed myself up on that one. I mean, I wrote short stories, but it didn't work out. I didn't give it the energy and the enthusiasm and the drive for it. I could try doing research, bibliographies and works cited and essays regarding social studies. It took me a long while trying to write a series in my adulthood, of which I still probably would have to go over again and rewrite, and hopefully somebody will be able to enjoy it. And I enjoyed it very much too, because part of me still wants to be creative. I used to build with Lego buildings. I used to build with blocks that would create things of imagination. I wanted to increase my imagination. I wanted to live in my imagination, because reality sucked. In fact, it still does. But these are the things I'm dealing with right now as it is. I deal with my health crapping out on me. Type 2 diabetes trying to kick my ass and kill me at the same time. I'm dealing with a senior dog who's over 20 years old, and she's stubborn as hell and doesn't give me sleep at night. And if I do get sleep, I'll be lucky enough for that. Online courses I've been taking for the past 2 or 3 years, trying to get through college. If I couldn't do it through physical, then I do online. And I gotta start going through the lists of classes I can take again. And I keep flip-flopping in my head of the majors I want. Either political science, which is going to give me an ulcer. History, which I think I like better. And then you have literature, which is the heart and soul of everything. But everything to me in my head, such as literature, history, and political science, are all connected. We study the works of back then. They were talking about their time period. and you study about their politics and what they were dealing with. Clemens was doing that in his books, including Huckleberry Finn, Tom Sawyer. He was talking about things happening in his lifetime that took a while to get changed. But he was making a political point, a historical point, in a literal form and format. I've got people over here who didn't bother to go to college or actually dropped out of school. Other people are still struggling their asses off to work. People older than I am hadn't had the experiences of college, or let alone enjoying themselves in a library once in a while. Maybe as a kid I was more fascinated with them than I ever realized as an adult. And I'm hearing things from other people about what they believed because I heard it on the grapevine. But the grapevine they have is withering and dying, mutating and changing into something else, and we don't even know what the hell the damn thing is anymore. So, that being said there, my friend, I'm talked out. I'm going to see if I can rest up a little bit, if my dog will allow me to. We'll talk eventually. One of these here days we'll talk. I just hope. Because I'd like to go over material with you about what's happening these days. It's not the anger, it's the sadness. You know what I'm going to do at this point? All 3 of those videos, I get them processed. I'm sending them over to my Reverend. Church Without Walls, done by Reverend Ed Trevors. He runs the Episcopal Church, St. Mark's, out in Nova Scotia, Halifax area. Nice guy. He's got about 200 congregation online sometimes. And we talk. We talk about life. We talk about everything else happening in our lives. He talks about materials that he's been coming across and also their conversations. You gotta check him out on YouTube. And then just type out just Reverend Ed Trevors and you'll be glad you did. Anyway, I'm hitting sack right now. We'll talk, dude. That being said.